Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of Mineral Coaches, which is where I coach you guys, the viewers. And today we have Doge, who is a 4.4k main tank on the menu. Doge plays for a team that hopes to make contenders trials, so we go pretty in depth into a lot of concepts. He obviously already plays Overwatch at a pretty high level, and we just try to raise his awareness as it pertains to GOATs. We talk a little bit about Reinhardt stuff. We cover Winston and how your playstyle changes depending on your composition. We talk a lot about map control and how to take it back and how to control it, how to synergize with your frontline, and a lot of other good stuff. So hope you enjoyed the video. Right, so I'm here with Doge, 4.4k main tank, teammate of Rhine, who was part of the first episode. And just before we start, before we get into the review, I just want to see how self-aware you are of your issues, whether you think there's certain aspects of your game that you need to work on and things like that. So I just want you to start and talk a little bit about that. If there's something specific you need help with or want me to watch extra carefully before I sort of get into my feedback.
Well, that's mostly in like any other hero, any hero that isn't Rhine. My monkey, I'm not really sure of positioning, especially in floats, and my ball is especially because I've never had any personal coaching in it, and I have no idea what to do, so I just try it.
Sure. Yeah, and I did notice that as far as the Winston play, and we'll get into examples as we get to the maps. But one thing that's I think pretty easy to fix is just get a different feel of how to play Winston with some of the compositions that you played within. You tend to jump a little too deep, and I'll explain when you can and when you can't do that. And with the ball, yeah, I did see that you didn't really know where to position or where to go, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But mostly a lot of this, since we're in the GOATs meta, a lot of it is Rhine, so what I think is important to talk about, which is what I touched on with Rhine as well, your Diva player, was that it's very important, I think, for everyone, for every single role, to understand GOAT's fundamentals, to understand ult order, to understand all of these little things, because if you can have an understanding of the meta and you can make a read on the fly, then you can, the more players on your team can make a read, then less likely you are to make a mistake, right? If you're less likely you are to mess up an ult order or a tempo shift or whatever it may be. So there will be a couple of things that we're going to talk about that are just like straight GOATs fundamentals, obviously a little more from your perspective, but still, that's, I think, very important. And another thing that I noticed is what you guys are doing as a team a lot is like you're not really taking what the enemies will do to you. Like you're calling out their ults, you're tracking, but you're not really thinking about what they will do and planning around that, which is something that I think would help you guys a lot if you guys started doing that. As far as your play goes, you and your Zarya, and I touched this in the review with Rhine as well, where you two have to be a lot more decisive with communicating your cooldowns, So I did notice that Spacer, your Zarya player here, he started calling bubbles a little more, or saying like, I can bubble you, but it's very important for him to say bubble in 3. And then immediately that in 3 seconds you're going to be able to make a move, right? And then you're a lot more efficient with your movement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if you notice that your enemies use a target bubble, you call that out. They use target bubble. Spacer goes bubble in 3. And then you go, okay, let's all in 3. That's very little communication that all can be communicated within a second, but it immediately puts the whole team on the same page. And then you guys are going to be much more efficient in taking space and like given up space, right? And that obviously in Reinhardt composition, that starts with you. Like your team is only going to be able to go as far as you go. So it's very important you guys in the front line make sure that you communicate those little things. And we'll get into a couple of examples, but yeah, that's basically the summary of what we'll talk about today. All right, so let's get to it. Is the VOD working for you?
Yeah, I'm sick.
Okay. No.
The quality is pretty bad though. Can we increase that somehow? Maybe it'll get better because now it's just. Is it okay on stream? I guess this is.
3k, boys. Gold damage. What the fuck are you doing?
Okay, so you guys played against the quad tank. You booped them down.
It's good. No, it's good.
Very good.
It's good because he keeps ult charge. We have a massive
nothing.
Yeah, they have absolutely
so let's see how you guys go for the trade here.
Nah, no.
Yeah, the Lucy boot me, trust me.
Yeah. 30.
They're 40 beat, Coming here. Divide Discord main. Play close to me. Play this corner right here.
So you're doing a good job using like this as a corner. And you guys, your initial trades here are pretty good. You're not surrendering any space for free. And this is what I'm talking about. You guys called that they have no ally, and you should know that your Zarya used your bubble sort of 4 seconds earlier, right? Or something like that. So because you guys initiate the trade with their bubble, then they bubble, and you guys retreat, which is very good. So you bubble here. Now you're distancing yourself from the Rhine because he has bubble and you don't, which is very, very good. Boom. Now immediately you know that there's going to be a window of like 3 seconds where you guys will have a bubble and they won't. So immediately this is the type of situation where a call needs to go, let's all in on Rhine on next bubble. Because you guys are going on the Rhine. But now you take a little bit of damage, and now the bubble is up. And you get the bubble while you're holding shield. Because you guys could have, he's very low here. You guys could have easily pressed this advantage if you were on the same page with your bubbles. And you guys kind of let them off the hook a little bit here on this 3-second window, right? Because you could have easily kept going. You get the Brigida shield, you get the Zarya shield, and then you guys just run over them, right? So it's super important that you guys are more efficient with your trading, because now that advantage is gone, and now they will have a window where they have a bubble and you won't, right? And now they're starting to take off angles against you as well, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's very important that you and Spacer are on the same page, and when you see these openings, when they waste them, that you understand your window and then you punish it, and you kind of dictate the tempo. Here in this situation, did you see the review session that I did with Rene and when I talked with them about off angles?
A little bit. I didn't see the whole thing.
Okay. So Chad is saying 160p gang. I don't know how to make this. I don't know how to make it higher quality. I guess the VOD is just kind of bad.
It's because it's over an hour long, I think.
Yeah. But this is one of those things. Like he's taking an off angle, which like you can't really take space now, right? Because if you push this way, he's shooting you in the back. So he's forcing you to angle your shield towards him, and this kind of crossfire benefits them, right? So how do you negate like a power position like this as a team or as yourself?
You could have our diva contest, or maybe you could all just go around, wrap around the right side together.
Exactly. The only way is either the heroes who can actually get on high ground contest him, or you push away from this power position to the point where it doesn't become a power position anymore. So like you said, if she takes that position, but you guys are pushing this way, then like that's not really that efficient, right? Like obviously he can drop and shoot you guys in the back, but that's much riskier, and you're not playing right under him where he can actually burst you, or where he has a lot of boot potential on you, right? So those are some simple ways to negate power positions, pushing away from them. And that's especially important in situations where, say, a Zarya took that position, right? Then like your diva can't really push her away. Maybe your Lucio can if he gets a lucky boop, but if she protects herself with a Zarya bubble, you can't really do that, right? So that's the type of situation where this type of movement, like pushing away from a power position, is going to be super important, and it's something you as a main tank have to pay attention to, so you don't put yourself in positions where you're just getting fucked by a crossfire, right?
Yep.
So just a little thing to think about. In this situation, it doesn't really matter that much because you guys have a huge ult advantage. But yeah, you see, like the Reinhardt fell to like 100 HP before he got topped up, so you guys missed your window a little bit.
Yeah.
But he blows up anyway. Good shatter, and it's very good because there is a beat, it's super important that everyone focuses the same target on the shatter, and you're very clearly calling for resources. You're going brick, brick, brick. That's the target you're pinning, and immediately get the discord. So that was very, very good. It's actually pretty common, even for pro Rhines, to shatter and not call who you want to focus when you shatter, and then everyone splits targets on whoever's shattered, and then you don't get any value out of it, right? So it's very good that you seem to have that habit where you just call who you want to focus, and it is sort of Ryan's responsibility to do that.
Sorry, on right staircase. I need help. Oh fuck, my bad. Fine, take a sword.
So you guys obviously overcommit ults here, using double support, which is a shame. But now the biggest thing is this bridge. So on Rialto, there are so many points where it's very hard to get map control. Like pushing through this part is hard. Pushing through the part over there is very hard. There's so many choke points that really favor the defense. So in this type of situation where you already have a kill, you need to make sure that they have to work to retake control, right? Because in this situation, your shield is super low, but you guys have a kill. So realistically, if you slow down and reset here, they shouldn't be able. You should be able to get this push and take the next corner for free, right?
Yeah.
So if your shield is full here, it's completely fine to push as soon as you cap. But in this type of a situation, now you don't have shield. So even though you have a bubble here, there's no corner for you to fall behind, right? So this is way too aggressive.
Yeah.
And because you fall here, even though you guys kill the Reinhardt, say the Reinhardt doesn't die, now they get to push you guys and hold, you know, hold this area, wait for the payload, and like this choke point is brutal to get past, right? So you don't want to take unnecessary risks like that.
Yeah.
So even though you guys pick off the Reinhardt, you see they're pushing their advantage. They got the last kill of the fight, so you still have to slow down, and you just lose so much momentum. And so much about 3-3, especially in attack, is about keeping momentum and not making these unforced errors, because this is, you know, a completely unforced error. He has already kept the point. There's no need to rush it.
I think I can farm it if we play.
And now because they did get the last kill of the fight, they can still contest you at this corner.
Okay. My game crashed. Rhine is Discord right now.
You can look for it, I guess. Grabbing? Yeah.
No friendly?
Wait, let's listen to your plan here.
Close grab. Probably have it. Same with trans.
I think I can farm it if we play it slow.
We're combo.
Yeah, we combo. Okay.
So you guys called for a combo here, right?
Yep.
Did you manage to catch my video on graph combos?
No.
Okay, so I would suggest to watch that, but I think that will just benefit the thinking process for your entire team, because there's so many times when you guys call to combo these two ultimates, when that is really a very outdated approach in GOATs. If you look at how AL teams play, almost...
Oh, wait. Yeah, I've seen that. Sorry.
Yeah, because almost no teams use these together, because if you grab first and then Diva bomb, then there's no matrix, then he can just counter and then you can't pin, right?
Yeah, so I just pin out of the grab, right, towards our team instead.
Exactly, because if you just use them one at a time, because if he grabs first and he matrixes you, then he can't really grab, right? Like there's Zarya can't grab, well, or it's like a gamble. Of course he can grab, but it's going to be a gamble, which means, yeah, it gives you an opening to pin. As long as Spacer gets the Brig in it or another 200 HP target, it doesn't matter if they would have trance and they would trance, you could still pin that target out. But as soon as you combo both of these ults, they can just use this, like the grab, to negate all of the follow-up.
Yeah, okay.
This scrim was before your VOD. Okay, yeah. But yeah, it's just important to touch on it, because you guys can see how your approach gets screwed here.
Grabbing?
You grab, you bomb, and you can't pin, right? Like you also bombed at the same time, and you also wasted the bubble before the pin. So if you guys are gonna set up with this ultimate, this is another thing where you and your Zarya are not talking about bubbles here. So if you would tell your rest of your team that we're gonna push with my target bubble here, push the Rhine with my bubble, and then look for a graph. If that's the plan, then everyone is ready. Maybe your Diva can wrap around. Maybe your Diva can fly up there and pressure, right? You can make a move together. But if you look at this move, you're not saying anything and you're pushing forward and you get bashed. and then you are using your target bubble just to save you. And this happens a lot of times where you kind of overreach a little bit because you're not sort of minigaming with your Zarya, and you just get bashed and you don't get any swings in. Because in this situation, you get a swing in, but you don't hit anyone. You see, you don't get hit anyone, you get bashed, and now you don't have bubble. So now you used your resource that you should save to pin. And you don't really get any swings in or any value out of it. You don't get an HP advantage, and you always want to get at least something out of your bubbles, whether it's forcing out their bubbles, whether it's taking space, whether it's getting an HP advantage. You want to get something. But in this situation, because you two are not talking with each other, you don't get anything.
No friendly.
So that's mistake number one. And mistake number two is obviously trying to go for the combo. And then you're using both ultimates, and they just counter it with the Diva Bomb. They could counter it by just grabbing, and they can counter it with the Diva Bomb. Regardless of which one they use to counter your combo, you can't pin, right? Even if you have bubble, you can't pin against a grab. You can't really pin against a bubble, against a Diva Bomb, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens here. So.
Shatter, rally, bomb, grab, right?
Yeah.
Beat and trance. No, no trance. Have to close the trance.
Rhine is Discord.
Go for it.
The personal?
Okay. I can look.
So also, when you guys are retaking, they're always in a situation like this. They're always gonna have energy advantage, right? So if you just walk up here and you take a straight shield war, you're almost always gonna lose a shield war. And you could potentially use an early bubble to charge energy. You know, like as you're walking up here, if you just step forward here, you talk with Spacer, bubble me for energy, you catch some spam, you wait for your next bubble rotation, and then you push up, you have a little bit of a higher chance to win that trade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something you guys can start doing more. But obviously you want to do it in situations where you know that your enemies won't be able to push into you, or you won't be able to give up space. So when you have map control, it's a little riskier because you don't want to use your bubbles too early. But when you are retaking map control, like they don't want to push into you here because that's a very strong choke point for them to hold there with the payload. So there's really like low risk to charge up energy here, and it's something you and your Zarya can do a little more. Because you can see how fast your shield is melting here.
I can look for shatter here. We use the force out there.
Something you guys do a lot, and this is more for your brig, but it's something you can call for a resource as well. It's like you guys are holding your rally a lot, and you don't get a lot of rallies out as a result. You should really try to use rally a lot more to take space. So like here you guys are playing slow and playing the shield war, when in reality, like they don't have rally, so you could use the rally and try and take space like this, right? And then they're gonna have to respond either with a grab or eventually with a trance, because if they don't use anything and you use rally, you're gonna win the trade. So in reality, the trade should be rally, you probably force a trance, or you at least pressure the Zarya, maybe you have a chance to eat it. They grab you, you probably have to trance, and then maybe you find a shatter, maybe you force out the trance, but at least you guys are making a proactive move, and there's a lot more win conditions instead of playing slow and looking for your shatter here. So you guys should use this a lot more to take space, and it's something you as a meeting can do a lot more. You said you have rally and you guys are retaking space, or you guys have map control, call for it more, and then know that you can overextend a little bit more. I'm gonna push right, rally, let's push right side with the next bubble or something like that. Like if you incorporate those calls in your vocabulary and you guys look to use these ults more proactively, you guys are gonna get so much better with your goats.
Rinse the Discord.
Okay, I basically have full shield in a second.
Give a Discord right now.
Go from the right side. Go from the right side here.
W.
Go on right.
No ally, no ally.
Like you guys kind of get space anyway, but you're using this reactively instead of proactively, you know? Like they're kind of giving you the space, but you could potentially force them back even further, right? Like you could force them back even further if they don't want to use an ult, if they want to kite it. Because you see how you guys play. Like if your enemies rally, you give up a little bit of space, right? If you want to keep that space, you have to use an ultimate, so you at least gain something. Good shatter, but anytime you shatter like this, never do long pins towards the enemy team. You can do long pins towards your team, but never towards the enemy team. So because here you could, obviously it's going to be a little hard to get this off because a good Zen is going to know that you're going to look for the pin and he's going to try to block it. But you should still try and look for a pin either into this wall or a pin like this. Because then it's low risk, high reward, right?
Yeah. I think the idea was to pin him off the map.
Yeah, but it's still risky because even if you pin him off the map, like they're using supportals and they're gonna follow and you're probably gonna die, right? But if you call I'm gonna pin the Rhine, the Discord goes on the Rhine, you hit the pin like this, you guys can probably blow him up and then you get to stay alive. If you pin towards there and you get him off the map, which if you're lucky, maybe you're gonna do that, but you're almost always gonna get traded because you're gonna put yourself in a position where you can get booped down as well. So if you can kill him and preserve your own life, then that's obviously like a more optimal play. So it's something you should think about when going for your pin angles, you know. And now you don't get it and you die anyway. But even if you pin him off the map, this or Lucio, like this is almost always going to happen. Yeah. But you can easily pin into that wall or into that wall.
Okay.
But obviously, in situations where like you can pin towards your team, then that's fine because then you force your enemy team to kind of chase the play, right? And then your team can follow up on the right easier.
Okay.
Okay, they use
both supports.
Trans, shatter. Or did
So they have combo.
yeah, combo. Rally probably. They're close to combo too. Just spill it.
Above you. Drop shield.
Yeah, here you actually do that. You got the bubble to charge up some energy, which is
Combo,
good.
we just die. I don't have beat yet.
I'm low.
If I have it, we can
Where's
go.
Discord?
We go to the right side payload now.
I'm ready.
You good? Calling that you're gonna take right side. You guys fight for the space.
Just
Die.
So here you guys call for the dry, which is it's not terrible because you don't have a support ult. But what do you think? Is there any way you guys can win this fight?
We can grab. They don't have trends.
Hmm?
We can grab them since they don't have a defensible.
But say you don't get your grab off and they end up grabbing first. What's your optimal response?
I would say let it go, but obviously that's not going to be it.
Well, the thing is, if you let it go, like this guy at 60, this guy's at 60, this guy's at 50, you're basically feeding them 4 new ultimates. And even though you get your grab out, you're going to push into 5 ultimates the next fight. So do you think there's a way where you guys can replay this situation and potentially win this fight? Or worst case scenario, force out a lot more ultimates from them?
Hard focus Zarya to pressure her into using in a bad position, then it gets DM'd.
And in terms of like ult order, is there something you can respond with if they grab?
Diva bomb for the grab.
So, because the thing is, if you can commit some more ults and force out more ults out of them, you don't have to win this fight because you have closer spawns, right? Considering where the payload is, your spawns are closer. So if you trade ults evenly and lose the fight, but kill someone from their team, then you should potentially be able to secure better positions for the next fight and potentially even some free push, right? So if there's a way you can win this fight using your ultimates, then you should potentially look for that. But you guys aren't really planning. Like, what are we doing if they grab first, right? Like, you guys aren't really thinking about that. But in reality, if you guys play a little slower, like before you guys push into this space where potentially the Zarya can grab you, you guys could play a little slow and let SFX get his ultimate. Then you have a defensive ultimate for their grab. And then let Rhine get his Diva Bomb. And then Rhine positions himself a little further back. He tries to eat it. But if he doesn't get it, as soon as their grab comes out, he bombs. Right? And then you look what happens after that. But because you guys immediately called for a dry fight, you don't even have that option.
I'm ready for combo.
And if you look at Al teams, that's exactly what they do in all of these fights.
Just
Because Ryan kills 2 people with a pin, but this pin never happens if there's a Diva Bomb that he has to worry about.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, they use combo. They only have rally, probably another shatter.
And then you potentially can find like a counter grab, and then you guys are trading, and then we go back to the same principle that I talked about in terms of
You want to take spell?
They're holding close. Wait, let me check it.
In terms of you guys having spawn advantage.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Mm.
Going forward. Yeah, lose his cement.
So,
Just got
let's
him.
go here.
You see, like now they're engaging with these tools, but this is again something you guys didn't talk about before the fight. No one addresses what are we gonna do if they diva bomb, and because you guys know that they used graviton, this is a very possible scenario. Like if they don't really have something to engage with, so like I mean they don't have something to engage with because the grav is off the table, but they do have the diva bomb. So you guys really have to take into account what are we gonna do if they diva bomb. And there's two approaches. You guys can push or you guys can fall back. But it has to be clear and everyone has to be on the same page.
Okay, holding S.
Because now Rhine is way too far up. Because no one really puts it on a table. Guys, they might bomb us first. If they do that, what are we gonna do? And you guys end up losing your diva and your bomb to this. When in reality, if you guys were on the same page, you guys can negate these two ultimates completely, right? If everyone's on the same page, because you do very well. You and your Zarya do very well to just back off. But this mistake is also, this mistake by Rhine is also avoidable if someone just puts it on as a plan instead of reacting on the fly. If 6 players are reacting on the fly, chances are very high that someone is going to make the wrong read. In this situation, 5 of you make the right read, 1 person makes the wrong read, and the whole team suffers because of it. Does that make sense? And again, from an ult perspective, what is if you guys call that they're going to use this, what should your ult response be?
Something with bomb.
Bomb?
Yeah, diva bomb.
So if they bomb, you would want to counter diva bomb?
I don't know. Wait. Okay. Fuck. Yes.
What about the grav?
Our grab? Oh, yeah. Okay, sure. We could grab while they're bombing because they don't DM. Is that
Exactly.
What
You don't have DM, so it's a free grav, and it stops the momentum. Like they can't really punish you because when they use this, they know that they will be able to take a lot of space while you guys are just struggling to see how to dodge it, which means all of the players on their team can take a lot more risks. But as soon as you grab them and you stop the momentum, you've completely negated this. You've not only negated this, you've also negated the rally. And most of the time, if you grab the follow-up, you block the bomb, you do a little bit of damage, you're probably going to force out this. So it's very likely that you end up in a situation where you use grav for 3 ultimates. And then you can use these three mid fight and get that little edge, right? So something you guys can look for as well. If they diva bomb, let's fall back and grab them. And you don't have to grab immediately. You can just everyone falls back into safety. And as they are starting to retreat and their diva is remaking, then you can grab them because then 100% they have to use the trance, right? So that's like a way where you can get a huge edge and trade like 1 ult for 3. But you guys have to have a plan like that. Because now you guys use the beat and the grav. And in reality, you don't have to use both, right?
Yeah.
But then again, you're also 1 down because Rhine died.
I didn't pin. You can check.
No, you just missed the pin.
We lose.
But the biggest difference is, like, regardless of the macro, is that they're taking the first move every fight, and you guys don't really have a plan of how you're gonna react to if they make the first move. Even though when we look at these fights, you almost always have the tools to deal with it. There's always a way. There's 2 or 3 ways every time, but yeah, you just have to consider them.
Let them bubble. Both bubble. Poke until they bubble. Poke until they bubble. Zarya Discord. We gotta go past.
Do I waste too much shield when I'm behind the card?
It's difficult because you don't want to let it down too much, right? It's like I said, it's a very tough choke point to get through because the defense has such a huge advantage, and they have energy advantage every time you retake unless you charge as well. So it's very difficult to maintain your shield. But that's why I said, even in this situation, don't play the shield war. Like, why you guys are saying let's force out their bubbles? Why would they bubble? You know, like they have energy advantage. In this situation, they can afford to play slow. again, another situation, you guys have rally, just set something up and push in with rally. Be aggressive, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys take space, and you don't have to worry about your shield at all because you have an ultimate to deal with it. You know, especially since you know they don't have rally. They rally Diva Bomb last fight, which means you have rally advantage, which means you have an ultimate that is pretty low value that can, one, give you space, and two, force out a better ultimate. You use this, since they don't have a rally to respond, they have to use something else to maintain that space. So it's just about using ults more practically, and then like really you making any mistakes with your shield. It's just you guys opting for a slow approach. I think that's the biggest issue.
We gotta go past this.
Okay, ready?
Let's go. Let's go. Go on.
Speeding.
Go on, Rhine.
I'm chasing. We have one up.
Rhine. Break.
This is fine.
Break this code.
Push me.
Okay,
Whoops.
Lucy's trying to move.
Lucio.
Take stairs.
Chase Zarya.
This is good. You guys are pushing up and taking map control. These choke points on this map are so brutal. That's why it's so hard to close this map. Because when you have momentum, it's so easy to keep momentum.
Closer, grab me.
What? Yeah, sorry.
No, I said yeah.
So what should you look for now in a situation like this as well? This is dead time. This type of a situation. What is your priority?
In terms of ults?
Yeah, just in general. Like, what should you be doing as a main tank?
I should take the stairs corner so they can
Here, right?
take it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What else could you do based on what we talked before? Potentially.
Could look for a grove. Look for a grove.
No, I mean like in this situation, before the fight even starts.
Plan what they're gonna do, which is they have grove.
Yeah, and what can you do? What can you two do?
Communicate bubbles. Obviously not counter grab. Do we use a null to counter it?
Just don't think about the ults. Just what can you use? What can you guys still accomplish before the fight even starts? You and Spacer.
You can get energy.
Yeah, exactly. So you see, like, Lucio is still dead. You know the next fight is going to be for this corner. So you do potentially have time to go here and use a bubble rotation. Charge up a little bit of energy. And then still have a bubble for when they come here, right? Potentially. You don't want to waste it. You never want to... So... You would never want to use it if they're all if all six of them are alive and they're ready to push up and take the space. But in this situation, you guys should know, like, this guy's still dead, so he's still in spawn. So you have potential to go. Oh, Spacer, I'm gonna try and get you some energy. I'm gonna try and catch some spam for you, and you come out here and then you try and catch some spam from them, right? Because you never want to be lapped in bubble rotations. So you see, like, they use a target bubble to potentially charge energy here. I don't know if they get anything or not, but the principle is good because you guys will never push them here, right? Because the payload is too far. You guys want to fight for the corner, so they know that you can't punish this. But you guys should potentially do the same, right? Like, you have a chance to, if he fire strikes, maybe you can catch a fire strike, and then you guys are using the bubble sort of at the same time. You're not falling behind in bubble rotations, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But only if they go around the corner, otherwise they're on the way.
Probably another shatter.
Let's try and shatter first, so that if we grab, we can build a new one.
Yeah, and it's so brutal to push out of here.
Zarya dropped. I'm gonna die. I'm dead.
So obviously your diva dies here, which she shouldn't. But what can you guys do better?
I'm pushing Kite around.
Say your diva can survive here. What should be your next rotation? What do you think is the optimum rotation?
Dropped.
No, we could either drop together in cart, or we could maybe push them on stairs.
Yeah. So if
since they're done.
Yeah,
right.
if you load up this my stream, I have an overhead and we can talk about this a little bit.
Okay, I'm doing that. Okay.
Right. So you guys are positioned where the icon is, and when their Reinhardt drops, that means they're essentially giving up the control for stairs. So if Reyna survives there and he just flies up, you guys have the choice of going absolutely wherever you want, right? And in general, if you're the attacking side, flipping the map, like you taking their side and them taking your side, is pretty beneficial for the attackers because they can't afford to kite. If you guys win a trade and they kite, then you guys are pushing the payload towards their spawn, and that's terrible for the defense. Like, they have to stand their ground. So when their Reinhardt drops here, you have a really good chance to just potentially flip the map, right? And it gives you so many advantages. You first clear stairs, so like no one can stand here, which means you funnel and you force everyone to play on the high ground, right?
Yeah.
You also have the choice of just keeping this area right here. So you could potentially, say Rhine flies up, you all regroup as 6 here. You and like your supports clear the stairs and you drop on the other side, on their side. And then your Zarya could potentially move into this area with her self bubble and shoot them from the top. Because that's like a brutal, like that would be a pretty, if we return to the VOD and try and envision that. So this situation, this position that D.Va plays, if you guys flip the map, your Zarya could potentially play here with her self bubble and shoot them from top, like whichever position they take, because you guys can still help her and she can easily fall back. But she can force cooldowns, she can do a lot of damage, she can, like the enemy D.Va would never be able to push off your Zarya alone if your Zarya took this position. And you could easily do that. Your Zarya could push this position and push him off, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in this situation, when they completely give up the fight for the high ground, you guys have all the choice in the world of how you want to play it. So it's completely fine, I think, to flip the map in this situation. And then, yeah, like these guys can't really stay here because if you guys are here, you can drop on them. Your Zarya also pushes this area and pushes the D.Va off. Now everyone's on the ground and they're like, where do we go? Like they have to deal with this type of a crossfire. And then you can either drop for kills, or if they rotate the whole way through, you flip the map and then you gain so many advantages. But instead, you kind of bail them out. Like obviously Rhine dies, which is unfortunate, but yeah, like you guys could be playing that corner from their side. And you guys kind of bail them out because you're like, well, we did very well to win the fight over there, but now we're just fighting like this. So this is the same thing as you guys wouldn't even have fought for that, kind of. I mean, you guys fighting for that basically means that their Zarya can't take that position, which is still a win. Like, it's better than just pushing main together, but yeah, like you can push those advantages a little more. I think you get the point.
Yeah.
Is there no self discount?
Play slow, we don't have.
Right.
Yeah, so it's rough because you lost your D.Va, so you they can't. You can't eat the grab, so you pretty much just die. You don't have a support ult, and Spacer can't counter grab because they didn't bomb. You see what they did? Like they used this, but they didn't bomb, which means a Spacer couldn't. Like, your only counterplay is negated by him not using his bomb, right?
Yeah.
No personal.
She's Discord, Zarya Discord.
Lag.
Yeah, it's not moving. So paused? Oh.
Discord.
No, okay.
I'm shattered.
I'm shielding. There's a break.
She's Discord, Zarya Discord. She's top right. Walk up on them.
Oh, no.
Lucio Discord. I'm shattered.
I'm shielding. There's a brick behind.
Break that, break.
I'm shielding you guys.
I'm pressing.
Rhine. Call target.
Run and grab.
Wait,
There's a brick behind.
see this again.
Walk up on them. Walk up on them.
Oh, no.
Lucio Discord. I'm shattered.
I'm shielding. There's a brick behind.
Okay.
Break that, break.
I'm shielding you guys.
So Spacer got shattered, but now he's up, and now this is another situation where you guys are under so much pressure. Lucio can take this risk because the bomb is covering him, because all of you are looking at the bomb, right? So this play is opened up to him because of the bomb, right? But as soon as Spacer gets up, if he grabs here, sucks these three into them, then he doesn't have that opening, right? Which is why, again, like, it's super important for you guys to have plans around their grabs and plans around their D.Va bomb engages, because again, this same situation, you guys know that they used the Zarya ult before, so it's very likely they will bomb engage. What is your answer? And if your answer is grab, you grab them here. You potentially force out the trance. Maybe you can pin someone, right? You should be able to pin someone after you guys negate this threat. but you need the pressure. Like you need to relieve pressure with this. And this would still be a winnable fight if you guys did that. But you guys get booped down, and then it doesn't matter that you guys have grab. So anytime you guys don't have map control, plan around what they're doing and how you're gonna use these ults. And like the Zarya and Diva ults are the most important because, yeah, like there's so many things you can do with them.
Okay.
Right side or top right? I'm not sure.
Right side. Bottom right. But I think they're moving. No, they're not. They're not. Fuck the wall.
So what is the thought process behind you guys holding the spawn with this comp with 3-3?
You get to take a really early fight, and you can afford. Then, like, even if you lose the fight, you get 1 or 2 more fights on the same point before they cap it.
Okay. So in this, it's the right thought process if you're playing against a team that plays DPS compositions, because then you just kind of want to force as many fights on Payload as possible and just win one here or there. But if you guys are playing against a 3-3 mirror, do you guys think this is good?
Holding spawn?
Yeah, like holding spawn, yeah.
It's very risky, because if we lose, then they get the ult advantage right away.
Yeah, and they also get the energy advantage, so you don't really get 3 fights, because it's going to be hard for you guys to charge up, and then even the next fight, you won't really be able to contest all the corners, right? Like, you saw exactly on your attack, you know, they held spawn, you guys wiped them, and they couldn't push the next corner, and they didn't get more than 2 fights either, right?
Yeah.
And that was because you, on your attack, you took a forward position on the plants, and then you guys just kept pushing the Payload the whole way. And then you guys win that fight because you guys have the energy advantage, right? So same principle here, because if you think about it, if you look at my stream again, there's 2 approaches basically that all teams have. Do you have it up?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, because if you guys hold where you guys are holding here, there's just so many exits from which they can come out. Like, they can come out from top right, top left, bottom left. So you guys are putting yourselves in positions where you can just get crossfired to death, and you will never really be able to dictate the pace here. Like, it's very difficult. You guys can't really fall back on the bridge because of the boop potential. So really the only 2 ways teams really hold is, one is to potentially hold the bridge here where this Reinhardt is, and then you can use this high ground and this high ground, and then your Lucio can look for boops. It's sort of the same way you guys struggle to cross the bridge on second point. Same principle here. So some teams do this. Most teams just hold this corner because it's very difficult. Like, when the Payload is over here, it's very difficult to funnel in through this choke point, which is why most teams just kind of go high ground and then drop to neutralize the corner advantage, right? So they're just architecturally, considering how the map is, with 3-3 mirrors, these 2 positions are just much safer. And regardless of which one you hold, you still get another fight. If you hold this one, your next fight is at the choke point, which is, again, a super brutal point to close. Like, it's very, very difficult. So in general, I wouldn't advise it for the same reason, like the way you guys crushed it, right? It kind of makes sense, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
So even though Rhine has position above them, it's just, yeah, like, you guys get overwhelmed. And because your kiting path, considering what your kiting path is, like, Spacer gets booped, because that's sort of the only place where you can kite while still contesting the Payload. And you don't really have a corner to fall behind. There's just no good ways to play that. Yeah, and same thing here. Like, they're fighting this, you know. If they would let you control that corner, yeah, potentially you could get more fights. But
Zen is 1 Discord.
W.
They armored the Diva Discord.
Diva 1 HP.
again, same situation. So you guys are calling Rhine, which is good. You guys are you're doing very well to manage your shield and HP and using cover when your bubble is down. But again, one of those situations, they just use bubble. You know your bubble is up in 3 or 4 seconds. All in Rhine with the next bubble. Like, just add that so that everyone is on the same page.
Red Discord still.
Yeah.
because and if you know the bubble cooldown and when you're gonna get it, then you can make better decisions with your HP. If you know that your bubble is coming up in 1 second, you can drop your shield a little earlier potentially. But again, now you're getting, even though you have a bubble advantage, you get it to save your life, because you get bashed, you get pressured, you know. And this is like, you could use this to take way more space and get an HP advantage, force something out, potentially even kill the Reinhardt. But yeah, just very important that you're on space, around the same page. Yeah, here you just take a very risky shatter. I think you could have potentially caught the Zarya and the baby on the left side.
I'm testing. Oh, my bad. Rhine is low. They trans as well. It's fine. Rhine.
And another situation why it helps your supports as well, because now your flex support is trying to save you with this trans, but like, it's important for him to know the status of your bubbles as well, because then he knows that if you guys have a bubble and you fall to 250 HP, maybe he doesn't have to trans, because he knows you're gonna get a bubble and you're gonna distance yourself. But if he knows that you don't have a bubble and you fall to 200 HP and they're pushing you, then he probably has to trans. And just you guys making that communication early on makes your flex support's life much easier as well, right?
Yeah.
And then they can make better decisions. Then you're not in the situation where your flex support just waits it.
He's got on the rain. Falling 90.
Now we can blip charge. Run, no, help me with the run. Run, nice.
Yeah, you see?
Falling 90.
Now we can blip charge.
So good trade. They use bubble. You guys could keep pushing it. You put up your shield when you get the bubble, you know? It's just a sign that you guys are not on the same page. Because you're afraid you're gonna die, because you don't know that this is coming, because one, you're not asking for it, and two, Spacer is using it reactively rather than let's use this to push. Because if you know you're gonna get it, you guys keep pushing this way. Maybe you're Brig and someone else pushes this way. Like, everyone can take space together. You guys can get so much more value out of these bubbles, right?
Okay. Yeah. Should I call for bubbles? Because I read a thesis where the guy said it's not a good idea to have the Rhine escort bubbles, because then it adds an extra layer of complexity that will kind of like comp sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, he's right, because like, Zarya is the carry, right? So if, in this situation, Zarya sees that the enemies use her bubble, and he knows my bubble is in 2. Put all in with the next bubble, and you're gonna be like, okay, and then you start moving, and then he can maybe potentially take an off angle, right? Because he knows that when you push this way with the bubble, you're gonna draw so much aggro, and he's gonna be free on this side, and he can just kill them from the back. So yeah, in general, like, it's optimal, I think, if Zarya calls the tempo shifts, but it seems right now in your team, like, that doesn't really happen, you know? So you calling for bubbles is better than nothing. But yeah, optimally, like, the Zarya can step up in that regard too. But obviously, it makes your life living hell if you don't know when you're gonna get bubbles. So yeah, like, it's good if you get a little more resourceful and you ask for bubbles as well. Like, it doesn't really hurt, especially if it happens sort of 3 seconds in advance. Oh, that's all in with the next bubble. Okay, bubbling you now, boom, you go. You know, it has a little bit of complexity, but it's not too bad.
I'm ready for grab.
Growing.
Oh, let's grab. Bombing.
Rhine pin.
Zarya discord.
Bridge 1, Rhine on bridge 1.
Rig. Oh, funny go.
Another of those situations where you guys commit both your tank ults when in reality you probably don't need it, because they don't have a support. Well, they beat it, but they didn't trans. So you could have potentially just won this fight with a graph pin, and then you guys would have Rhaenys ult to engage with, you know, so sort of like your enemies did. But now your offensive options are very limited for next fight.
Okay, they use graph.
Because you like those two.
Yeah.
Did they use anything else in graph and beat?
Okay, they shattered.
So you probably have to play slow player energy advantage. Reyna has a good off angle here, so he can shoot them in the back. The payload is in a bit of a tricky spot, so you kind of have to let it push forward a little bit, so you have the boop advantage rather than they do.
Poking the Rhine. We should discord. I'm off angling their Rhine. Yeah, I've over Diva. No personal bubble. Rain discord.
Again, no one talked about this, right? Like, how are we going to react when this happens? And then you could read the movement of their diva and potentially adapt. Right? But that's like not part of the comms.
Yeah.
Because that's not part of the comms, Spacer is pushing forward and you get surprised by it, where you guys are reacting backwards. So like Rhine did this last time, now Spacer is doing it because it's not put on the table. You guys aren't on the same page.
Rhine is gone.
And you could potentially, like, what could you potentially do? You know, if they diva bomb us first, let's do this. Like, what are your options, considering your ult economy?
We could Zerg rush them. We probably don't need bubble since they don't have. Do we? No, since Zerg rush them with aggressive trance.
Yeah, you can potentially do that. You can either fall back and dodge it, or you can rush them because, like, when you rush them, you can also find a shatter, right?
Yeah.
Rhine is also playing a super strong position, so if you guys can push in a way where this bomb doesn't get any value, then you can have like a 6 versus 5.5, right? It's more like a 6 versus 5 because of how strong Rhaine's position is. But if you guys are kiting back, then like that position is kind of useless. You know, it's sort of like, because you guys are not there to follow up, then he can't really do much either.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have a lot of room for error because you have the chance. So you guys do hit the shatter, but if you guys had that proactive plan, then maybe Nat doesn't die. Like now Nat dies to the diva bomb. But if everyone's on the same page, he uses it to engage, you find that shatter mid-fight, maybe this is a winnable fight. But they take out one of your only 2 ultimates in this fight, so your chances are immediately much lower.
Jump off the map.
And that's why, like, you see how many fights your opponents are winning just with diva bomb engages. And that's because you guys are just not prepared enough before the fight.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think so. Rally shatter grabs. Close cover.
They're taking stairs. We can go up there before the rank.
Yeah, take stairs back. Zone and stuff. Just push through stairs.
So this is very good aggressive move because you guys see that 2 people are pushing card, right?
Yeah.
Which means that even if their diva is on the card and she can come up, it means someone, presumably the Zen, maybe someone else, is down there who can't get up here, right? So if they have 2 on card in this situation, you know that you will always be able to have at least a 65 here. If you push fast, even a 64, and like that's what you do. So this is very important to pay attention to, like the payload progress too, because then you know you can take this aggressively. You guys do a much better job here than your opponents did on their defense. You guys don't have to use any ults, you rebuild your ult economy, you can take space forward, so that's very good.
We can stagger. Body bug. I have movement too.
Whereas you guys only left one person, you only left Rhine on your attack, and then he can fly up and help, so he can help you fight for that space up top.
You sure? Yes. I don't think so. We should play the corner.
No.
Okay.
That's fine.
So Rhine wants to fight here. It's a little harder because you don't have the payload to use as a corner, so it's a little harder for you to conserve your shield, but at the same time, considering your ult economy, it's much easier to get value out of this as well. But it's also kind of risky to push across the bridge, so it's a little iffy. There's various approaches here. I wouldn't mind you guys holding a little further back with the intention of engaging when your enemies are like in this area. You like diva bomb toward here, and then you push in, because then they have to kite or go this way, and then maybe you can find boops from another angle, right? And you can play a corner and play slow until that happens. Because in reality, if they push up and you want diva bomb engage here, and you push in, and they have a plan to push into you, it's kind of easier to negate it, because you guys are also, by pushing forward in this direction, putting yourselves in a position where they can boop you as well. So, you know, you could potentially abuse your map control a little more here.
Okay, we can rally and shatter.
So shatter.
Yeah, we can rally and look for bad shatter. As soon as they use bubble, we aggro, rally, and done. Zarya Discord.
But the plan is right, like aggroing with rally.
Everyone poke that Rhine. Zarya low, keep poking. Counter rally.
Yeah. Another of those situations where a bad trade by you guys forces Nat to trance. You should never ever have to use this first. This should be your first ult, and it should be used proactively every time pretty much. Or these two in comparison, but you can never afford to lose this before they grab. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
But if you look at the trade, like what led us to that situation? Here you're distancing yourself well. You're poking the shield well. You go in for a swing here. You distance yourself again. Their shield is breaking. You have shield advantage. So far, very good. Their Zarya is losing HP. Their D.Va is losing HP. You guys are very healthy. Their shield is going down. The longer you stay in this position without anything going wrong, the better. But now you go in for this swing without asking for a bubble. And this is where the mistake happens. Because you get bashed. As soon as you get bashed, the burst comes in. And they rally first. So he has to make a read, like do it, like what do I do? Because I think you did have a target bubble here, right? I think, yeah, you get it now just to help you survive, right? And again, you never want to use your bubbles just to survive this early in the fight when it's just kind of an even fight. Yeah. So again, like Nat makes a mistake because he should never trans before the grab comes out, but you guys messing up that trade sort of makes him make a mistake. Scally OW, thanks for the follow.
I'm trusting.
But yeah, this is what I mean. You know, like if you guys can keep them here, then this is perfect for you.
On shield.
And here you're playing your shield very well. Because of how well you played your shield in the beginning, even though you lost your chance, your shield is still super healthy, whereas he has to hide and charge, you know? And these guys can never cross here. So now they're pretty much screwed.
Rhine in this code right now.
Shutting now. Break
shatter.
Run. Kite, can you? Never mind. Go on.
Zarya this code in the graph.
Wait, let's replay that.
Rhine this code right now.
Shutting now.
So good counter shatter. And the counter shatter is there just because you guys played the shield war very well. And again, you guys could use ultimates to counter, especially when you don't have trans. Their D.Va bomb came out, they comboed it. You could just grab, and then you guys are controlling the fight because now it's super messy. Like you guys are just popping ults without any planning. But if you guys had the plan, if they combo, let's just trans or let's just counter bomb, it's much easier. And you guys feel like you have control of the fight.
Kite, can you? Never mind. Go on.
Whereas now, like, you're not on the same page. Someone's calling Kite, someone is calling to, or like Spacer just uses his ult, right?
They use graph, shatter, D.Va bomb, break ult. They have beat, only beat. You can engage with D.Va bomb on the bridge.
Yes.
You can't shatter bar.
When they bubble.
Yeah.
Make it harder. Send far right now. The cart's rolling back now.
Then don't give him so much
Don't
space.
give him space.
Rhine.
Hold the middle bridge. Run.
What do you want?
Up dodge. Rented. 1 for 1.
So it's not bad. You're getting in a lot of swings, but again, like, there's no talk about the bubbles here, right? Which is why you eventually get bashed and, you know, like, you're just kind of swinging into them. You could go in, swing with bubbles, sort of anticipate the burst, and then step back so you block the bash. There's too many situations where you just get bashed, but yeah, like it's on both you and Spacer. So this I really don't like because you guys saw how brutal it was for you guys to get over that bridge. You see how much they're struggling getting over the bridge. You guys don't even have to use ultimates because of how strong that position is. You guys have so many ults to play with. You even have a plan with your D.Va ult, and that position is where the D.Va ult can get so much value. You know, and you're also in a situation where they have nothing, so you could easily like make this into 1.5 fight potentially, or like you let them push up and just win with just a D.Va bomb potentially, and then have like 5 ults for the following fight. So taking a risk like this when you have all of these tools and map control, like there's absolutely no need for it. If the situation is where they have 5 ults and you have this and nothing else, completely fine to go for a play like this because you don't really have a win condition going into that fight. But now there's just so many win conditions that this is really unnecessary.
Ghost gets fucked, I beat.
No, they know. I'm getting out. I'll work my time.
You know, what if you got bashed here, you know, and then you guys just kind of throw it and get snowballed.
Let me just look for shatter.
Randy's gone.
They're waiting.
And you see, like, it's so hard for them to walk up. Like, their shield is just melting so fast.
Melt their shield. I'm shattering now. Right.
Randy's gone. Randy can die.
And you guys, because you guys know that they have to take this space, you know, like, I think you can be even more patient with your shatter. Because now he's not recharging his shield, right? So as long as you guys fall back that way, Payload is right behind you, he can never make it to the next corner pushing aggressively without using an ult. And there's no ult that they can use, right?
Yeah.
So you could just say, back and melt the shield, back and melt the shield. Because then they're like, well, what do? We go here, our shield breaks. We go backwards, well, we're back to square one. You know, like, especially with the Payload here, it's perfect to just keep kiting. Or engage with your Diva Bomb. Like, if Rhine is positioned further back there and Diva Bomb is in this area, you guys can just push into them and kill them. To me, that's even better instead of gambling with the shatter first.
Yeah.
Especially since they don't have anything. Like, his shield is going to break before the bomb even goes off, and then this is just a free wipe for you. And then you have 5 ults for the next fight. Now you guys lose your main damage dealer. You guys have to commit trance. Because of that, you don't have your main damage dealer. This fight drags out for so long. Even though they started with no ults, they get to farm up. And because Spacer died, you have to give up some map control. You guys, SFX is good boobs here, so it kind of builds you out.
Yeah.
Here, because you know the Spacer is coming back, just... You know, your Lucio also calls like he's speeding Spacer, so pay attention to where they are. Because you don't know where they are. Like, now you know where they are, but keep pay attention so that you don't overpush and get caught with your pants down. If you're Lucio and your Zarya, the two heroes who can help you the most are super far back.
They're gonna touch anyway. Don't try.
And again, no plan. You guys don't anticipate the bomb. Spacer dies to it. You guys lose your grab again.
I have to bomb.
Oh no.
So now Rhine bombs, I think, to just remake, but it works out very well. Because you essentially end up doing what I told you guys in terms of bombing when he grabs, right? And you see how it works out immediately. You survive because no one can pin you, and you guys even get a kill while they're trying to follow up, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a conscious play by Rhine, but you can see how it works out when it actually happens.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And if Spacer doesn't die to the bomb, you guys probably win that.
So they have. What do they have?
Close mid,
They have
trans.
trance.
We go fast.
Yeah. They're not here yet.
Yeah, they're not here. We just go.
They are.
Just go.
Zen left side.
No.
Break this cut. Break one.
Nice, good pin on the break. Very nice 180 shatter.
Run this cut.
So you did pin towards the enemy team there, but in that situation it's fine because it's sort of a medium pin. Your team can easily still help you. And it forces all of them to turn around, so it's like automatically giving you map control. So that in that situation it's fine.
Yeah.
And you have so much kill potential on the break as well.
Yeah.
So how come you guys are starting with Ball here? I'm just curious about your thought process.
Niriki we knew was gonna not run main, and we wanted to practice Ball Goat since we saw another team run it one time in scrim.
Okay.
I think this was like the first or the second time we tried it, so.
Okay.
They're playing left.
Okay. Left side.
There's not really much to go through on this stage. I think you guys rolled them pretty hard. There's just a couple of things.
They gotta realize if there's some weird shit and stay.
The biggest thing is, again, just asking for bubble in your pile drives. And calling your pile drives so that everyone is ready to take space. Because now, like, again, you get a reactive pile drive. I mean, you get a reactive bubble, you know? I'm gonna boop them. Okay, I'm bubbling you, right? Because you guys aren't really talking.
I'm gonna go on them with pod
They're
diving.
rushing space.
Rhine half. Rhine's just got.
Pod diving
No,
now.
no, 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 no.
Roll on
Good
here.
pile drive.
Here's one.
Same one, same
And you guys wipe them.
Big slam.
Cow. They have nothing.
So here it's important you guys are scouting all the exits, and when you're on ball, like you can scout wherever and then immediately still be in the fight, you know? So potentially if you guys are, all of you guys are here, instead of you scouting this exit too, you could potentially be just scouting left. And if your team says that you're coming this way, well, that's fine because your team is still going to want to fall back a little bit because you can't hold the corner without a Rhine. And you're going to want them to push out like to here, and then you're going to want to slam him. So it's not like you scouting that exit puts you out of the fight. You know, you can still rejoin the fight in the area where you want it to take place, which is probably here, right?
Yeah.
So just make sure you abuse the fact that Hammond has so much speed and you can get around the map
I
quickly.
look left, I look left.
Because now your Lucio scouts left, but it's important that he stays. You know, now he's not in this position to like help the break potentially. And this is super risky. You know, you don't call for bubble, you just go into 6 of them. If you get bash chair, you die. And then you get bubble afterwards, you know? Like, it's just like you guys aren't in sync. And with Hammond, 100%, just ask for bubbles. You know, what's your bubble? Bubble me on the pile drive. I'm pile driving now. And then you get so much more value. He gets more energy and you can get a lot more done.
5 point.
Mine's on point.
Mine's on point.
I'm running.
Run.
Ryan's gonna have shatter. Careful. Ryan's gonna have shatter.
You have high ground?
Diva low. Diva can die. Diva can die. Dead. Run one. No ults. Sorry.
Beat with you.
Okay, they're gonna have graph.
Doge, if you want, you can roll back and go
Yeah.
run. Too late.
What?
Rally beats combo.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
I beat the...
You have a wrong combo.
Just
Nice.
go,
They're
yeah.
just gonna grab combo. We died to it. We can't save us anyway.
Yeah.
We
Just
can-
die to
we
combo.
can-
Force combo. No. Just die to combo. They have too many ults.
Yeah. So you guys call die to combo. And yeah, like it is very hard for you guys to kill them with your combo and like when they have full shield. And it's very difficult for you guys to get anything done with your combo because they can counter grab you and then they have a shield. But just dying to combo is like, I don't know. Like you should be able to get something more out of them because if your plan is die to combo, they won't use the combo. They will just use the grab and win and then hold with 5 ults, right? If they see that you don't use anything as a response. So what Rhine I think is saying here is like it's correct. Like just stall time. So when they path here, your team should be falling like kiting away. Just run and buy time. Get to 99.
Much time as you can. Stay spread. Just stay split. Don't fight them.
Yeah, because now you never want these guys to catch you because they don't have a chance in a straight fight. And then you just try to interrupt them wherever possible. And then potentially, if you get their shield low enough, if they get tired of chasing you guys and they go to point, that's where you could potentially even win the fight. Like if their shield is low, you could combo Spacer's ult and your ult, right? Because you could potentially even kill through trance with that. So this fight is still winnable as long as you play your comp correctly. But yeah, it means that the rest of your team has to keep falling back. Like Rhine shouldn't even be playing this type of a position because you're not playing Rhine 3-3, so he's just gonna be forced out and then they can snipe the grab and then you don't accomplish what you want to do. You just want to keep distance, force them to point, and then play around with your slams, and then you can potentially force out a little more.
You're gonna swap it anyways.
Because yeah, now they just grab and they keep everything else. Just don't let them grab and run around.
Get a Zarya. No charge.
Yeah.
Okay, they have...
Burn one.
Let's see. Yeah, just need a good
Burn one.
No.
good plan for this.
Ryan's looking for the shatter.
Let me see. Yeah, because again, the same thing. You know, they just get so much value out of these fights where they bomb engage.
Ryan's looking for the shatter.
Yeah, they're gonna
They fucked up.
They bomb engage, they rush you, and all of you die. Whereas you have this, to relieve pressure. If this comes out and Brig gets ulted, you can just like she gets the Brig gets grabbed, the Lucio gets grabbed. You can just focus on blocking the bomb and then re-engaging afterwards, and then it's still a winnable fight, right?
Yeah.
But instead, you guys, you call for the reset, you beat, then you grab, and this is still winnable, but it's so much, you know, like, it's bad now. It's actually really bad, because you guys commit 2 major ults. Whereas this, like, ult trading could be a lot better if you guys just discussed the ults and understood how to use them in those situations. Plan here is fine though. I think you guys just, yeah, you guys want to go to point. They don't contest the corner, so they let you out. And then you guys get to control this corner as well. And the platform comes up, which is huge for you, because then they see 9. With tempo shift, you go back when they rally. And then you re-engage with bomb. And then you find the shatter mid-fight, because you guys are all aggressive as a team. So, good tempo shifting there. Just the fight, the retake before, where you guys need to deal better with the D.Va bomb. Because here we have a little bit of Winston. So just some basics. When you play Winston, when you play floats, say when you play floats against Reinhardt, what is, like, if we just reduce the composition to something very, very basic? What does the Winston goats want to do, and what does the Rhine goats want to do? What do you think?
The Winston goats want to split their backline and their front line. That's what floats does, and then the Rhine goats just want to go hard on the target and melt them. Maybe when he goes for the interrupt.
So you're right that the Winston wants to split the enemy team. Also play in a way where he farms a lot of ultimate and make a lot of plays with the Primal. The Reinhardt one, you don't really want to speed on a target. You want to make sure you force out the Winston first. Because if you're playing a Reinhardt composition, as we'll see here, if you don't force out the Winston, then and you don't focus the Winston and you don't pay attention to him, then he will split you. He will get his ult, and they will kite away from you, and then you will get split, right? So your priority is to let's make sure Winston doesn't get his win condition, and then after that we can focus on what we need to do. So we'll see a couple of examples where that's going to be evident here.
They have monkey too.
Left side.
And a float.
And D.Va.
No ally bubble, on the monkey, break the bubble, break the
So you guys win the high ground battle here.
No nade.
Big nade. When you guys win the high ground battle like that, it's just important. Like you could potentially still stay there and zap them, but Rhine could drop and try and eat the nade, because when that nade hits, like, you guys just kind of lose this. But the initial part of the fight was good.
I'm on their end and their back.
Jump off the map, jump off.
So you go, I'm on the Ana in the back. I'm on the Ana in the back. Because, like, in this situation, how do you win the fight?
Well, they're pushing in, can go on their backline, and then they're going to turn around and be distracted, and then the rest of our team can.
Yeah, you probably even if you play this correctly at this rate, the chances of you winning this fight is maybe like 10 to 15%. But because you have this position, it's still possible, because she doesn't have nade. She just used her nade offense. No, he used his nade offensively. So
I'm on their end and their backline.
I'm on the Ana in the backline. Good call, but it's an info call. And then Rhine goes, just jump off the map. Like, he's already giving up. And it's fine. You're probably going to lose this fight, but the only way you win this fight is if you immediately get a trade back. You need to trade a kill back immediately. If you play slow, you lose. If you suicide, obviously lose, because you're just giving up. So instead of this being I'm on the Ana in the back, it needs to be an order. Instead of being an info call, it needs to be an order. Dive the Ana in the back, I'm on her. And then Rhine, if you scream that before Rhine just goes, let's just jump off the map, maybe he shifts into her, and because she doesn't have an aid, you get that trade, right?
Yeah.
at least then you have that's your 15 or 20%.
Jump off the map, jump off the map. We're gonna do
But you just give up so you don't get the follow up. Like you almost killed the Ana on your own.
we go right.
But if you get just a little bit of help, and if you make that in order, then it's doable.
Break Primal.
Okay.
Break Primal.
So I'm gonna try and speed run this because you have to go in 30, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and speed run this
I'm poking deep.
because a lot of the concepts are sort of similar.
No armor pack.
So in terms of what I said, like not jumping too deep.
I want to jump the Ana in the back.
And a half.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
here,
because I wanted to go for the Ana.
yeah, because you want to go for the Ana, but again, when you're retaking control, you have to do it methodically. And when you play Winston Goats, you don't want to jump away so far, unless you have Primal, you don't want to jump away so far away from your team that they can't follow up. Like the way you secure kill, you're not going to kill an Ana on your own in a 3 support composition, right? Like you need your team. You need your team to be able to close the distance as well. So you jumping, like you could potentially jump here if you had Primal and then draw aggro and then split them up and then the rest of your team can push up and take space. But in this situation, your off tank is sleeping, right? So you jumping here doesn't really accomplish anything. You have no, even with the Discord, you don't have, and you also, when you make these jumps, very important, again, you talk with Spacer and ask for bubbles. Because if you get a bubble here, then he doesn't boop you. And then if they don't get this boop, maybe you draw aggro from 3 and you survive for longer, right? Even if you don't get the kill, maybe you draw aggro for long enough.
I want to jump the Ana in the back.
But because you don't have the bubble here,
Oh, there's Ana.
now they don't have to, you know, like now you're out of the fight. If they just double you forward, you're out of the fight. If you get the bubble, you're not out of the fight.
Then push one line now.
But you get it now when the fight is over, right? So very important that you guys manage those cooldowns. Not jumping too deep, but also managing those resources.
They're doing dates in the air.
Beat.
Okay, so you go Rhine.
Close to grab.
I'm going top on the
Close to
deep.
Yeah, so what is the priority? Now you're on Rhine against Winston?
Wait for them force out the monkey.
Yep.
Force
Where's
out-
the monkey? Where's the monkey? That should be in your comms now.
Matrix, they're
Carry it.
He's high, especially when you know he has Primal, because you can never make a play forward when you know he has Primal, because he's just gonna split you guys. If you guys tunnel on something in front of you, yeah, like you just get split by the Winston. And here you guys don't have no idea where he is.
break bubble, break bubble. Kite back, kite back, kite back.
But you guys react quickly enough and fall back. Because when he primals, what you want to do is you need to keep fall back in a way where you know where everyone is kiting and you keep the enemy Winston in front of you. And here you accomplish that, right? Everyone's behind the shield. Winston is in front of the shield. You guys negated the ults. So this was very good. And you forced out 2 ultimates. So this is very good play.
Fall back.
I beat.
They use rally and they use nano. And they use
And
primal.
Primal.
Yes,
We
perfect.
can go.
Come.
Where's the
Monkey's
Winston?
left,
Where's the
monkey's
Winston?
Monkey no bubble.
Monkey's behind, right?
Help me.
You guys go Zarya. And now you're like, guys, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on is the Winston has split you guys, right? So the split. But if you guys found the Winston, pushed him, forced him to jump defensively, then all of you can take this space together. But because you guys didn't have that as a priority, you just tunnel forward. You end up again using so many ults and still losing.
Die.
Or I mean, you just beat, I think. But yeah,
They have one ult. They only have beat. That's all they have.
because of that, like he almost gets a new Primal.
We should go Ratchet though.
If you want to go
So you guys called to go right side. I mean, you don't have much time here.
go right, we should be able to just win the rally. Try not to combo.
And also in terms of pathing, if you guys have more time, and you scout that Winston is hiding there, it's good to push in through that little high ground, so you force him away from here at least. Then it gives him fewer high ground positions to play. Then he kind of has to play here, or he has to play there, and you just methodically clear the map. So instead of pathing like this, and giving the enemy Winston this, you can just path and push him off earlier.
Go right.
They don't leave. Come. Just go one.
Here, when you guys path like this, and they have high ground over you, you pretty much have to use rally to make this cross, because they're playing over you and they're gonna pressure your Zen, and you never ever want to let them kill your Zen. Their win condition is force the trance or kill the Zen, and when they have high ground like this with 6 people playing above you, you guys can't really defend him. So you need to rally. You probably need to pre-armor him when you guys are going this way and trying to path towards point. And Spacer has to be very careful and consider using the bubble on him as well. So you have to commit a lot of resources into your Zen when you're crossing areas when they are playing a high ground above you and can just drop and rush the Zen, because that's going to be their play, right? And you, as a Reinhardt, you don't need the bubble as much because you're not trading with with another Reinhardt, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So just got to reallocate resources a bit. But because you guys don't use this, like you used it a little late, you guys split. Zen gets pressured and he trances, you know, and you guys should never have to use trance this early. That's fine. You guys end up winning the fight, but you could have saved more ults here.
We just go for a combo, to be honest. Yeah, flank shatter first.
Flank shatter. We can win a fight off of that and build a new one.
So you guys are calling for flank shatter when you have a lot of ults. Then risk you don't have to go for it now.
Play for shatter first. We play for shatter first. They still have no trance to build towards.
If they use anything
Wait for shatter.
Break their battle. Just break their
So again, what do the enemies want to do here?
bubbles. That's all.
They want to jump in and split our backline apart and then push it.
Exactly. So what do you need to do now? Winston just leapt in the air.
Kite back.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Kite back.
Kiting to point.
I'm with him.
Play with those.
So you guys do kite back, but Winston doesn't have to do anything to accomplish his win condition, right? His win condition is to split you, and he doesn't even have to use his ultimate to split you, because you go this way, your backline goes either that way or that way, right? So he doesn't even have to ult. You guys split on your own, and that's because you guys are not talking about the kite pathing. So you guys need to talk, like, when the Winston jumps in, where are we kiting? Right? You don't really want to kite to point because that's where he potentially can get environmental kills, right? So you could just say, when Winston jumps, like, let's fall back here potentially, right? Like, that could be a decent spot to fall back to. Or just fall back in a way where you push them. But you want to fall back the same way. And if all of you fall back this way, you're not giving him the environmental kill potential, and you're setting up your line of defenses here. And it's going to take time for, if their Winston goes for a deep jump, it's going to take time for them to close distance on you. But because you guys don't talk about it,
They're backing off.
Kiting to point.
I'm with him.
see, like you're all split, and he doesn't even have to use his ultimate to split you. So now they've gotten you to a position where he can get environmental kills. You can't land a shatter anymore because you split from the rest of the team. So as you're falling back, like you don't even have orb anymore. Let alone like LOS for a bubble or matrix or anything, you know. And that's something as a Reinhardt that's very important for you to kite. Like, I want to kite this way. If they jump, let's kite this way. Because most of the time you're going to be in charge of the pathing.
Monkey primaling. I'm close to my trend.
Because it's a very winnable fight, but you end up in a situation where you don't even get to use your shatter, and you have to use all your ults defensively. So now it's kind of over. So with these compositions, both are playing 3 DPS. Who's gonna play at a higher tempo based on the compositions?
They are.
Exactly. Because they have the tracer, right? And you guys want to play, and they have the Lucia, right? So like they don't have a lot of sustain for the people fighting on the ground, and they have 2 flankers who just kind of want to look for kills, whereas you guys have an Ana who's just kind of sniping from far back, and a Widow. So you're essentially playing like two snipers here. So you guys want to play a lot slower, which means what? Like how do you want to approach it? Like what should your mindset and the mindset of the rest of your team be?
Maybe punish whoever pushes in.
Yeah, like
When the hand
just
pushes in, it can get hacked.
more of a peeling mindset, because there's in reality there's nothing for you and Rhine to dive, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know they have to be aggressive, because if they're not aggressive, for every second that they're not aggressive, that's time that Spacer gets to shoot. That's time that your flex support can just heal you guys up, and you guys out-sustain them with your composition. Yeah. So to accomplish that, which way should, like, what? Because you guys roll out this way, but what should the optimal rollout be? Do you think?
Either wait in the back or just push out the remain and then get ready to roll. Wait, hide? Oh shit, I didn't mean to draw. Fuck. Get ready to roll back.
That mean like the whole team, you know? Because now all of you guys roll out this way. Like, is this an optimal position for your Ana?
With Tracer?
No, we need positions with good LOS.
They're playing left side, I'm already right side.
And what else? Because what was their win condition?
To dive.
Yeah, to dive him or him.
Yeah.
No.
So take space for our snipers.
Yeah, but this could potentially be a good place to start operating from, right? Because if you get the mega there, and you guys get control of this, it's much harder to dive there, right? Because Hammond can't, like, it's much harder for the Hammond to slam inside there. It's much easier for him to get a good nade off, like a good anti-nade, right?
Yeah.
So, and then Spacer can work his way out of there, you know, like he can peek from window, he can do whatever. But you guys completely abandon the right side of the map, and like now you're going so deep, and like they're already diving you guys. So both of you are just kind of out of position. But the bigger issue, I think, is that your Ana is playing in a position where she can get slammed. Whereas if you guys are operating from there, you slowly push them away. You look, maybe you look for a hack on the Hammond, you push him away, and then you kind of break up this trio that wants to dive. You just need to make life as hard as possible for them and buy more time for your Widow. But yeah, like now you and your Sombra are just completely out of position because you don't have the right approach. And also because you're like everyone is playing out here, you know, it's much easier for them to dive like on that rock or the statue or whatever it is. Now it's okay because you guys have the point pressure. They have to worry about fighting for the point, and Ana has insane LOS and can hit nades. So like now that position is actually better because they can't really dive. Because you've already secured map control and pressure. And now like Tracer and Sombra can never get on the Ana.
Okay. Probably have MP, probably
I can end
Ball ults, probably Vark, something like that.
But it's still the same thing. Like now you guys can play with a more defensive mindset, you know? Like let's try and interrupt. Let's mark, you know? Let's put Rhine on the ball. Put Rhine in a position where he's close to the Ana and he can interrupt the ball, you know? So in theory, if your Ana is there and then Rhine just plays like in this line, if he sees ball going there, he like pats like this, or he goes like this to interrupt him and hack him. If he sees the ball going this way, he can go this way and interrupt him. And if you just interrupt the ball, then your Ana is safe, right?
Yeah.
If someone is on you.
And then you have to have the same mindset. Because you guys are very slow to react here. You guys don't, like, none of your, obviously you can't mark the Sombra, but you can potentially mark these guys.
Yeah.
That's 3 behind.
I can Vark.
Aww. Oh, we got one. We got 2. Nice. I want the Sombra.
Let's not think about this too much.
Someone's a Sombra behind.
Someone's gonna kill me. No, I'm okay.
Remember to call a Sombra when he's on.
Because I want to touch on some stuff on the last map too.
Fire barrage.
Yeah.
Me heal. Thank you.
So I don't want to hang on too much. But yeah, the big thing is identify your win condition and your tempo, your ideal tempo, and then talk with your flankers. Because even on this fight, like now you don't have the Widow anymore, so now you could potentially take more map control. You know, you could hack the Mega, and then position your Ana this way, and then make sure you guys control this area. If you guys control this area, you funnel them this way. Then your Ana can sit there, and she still has a mega to fall behind, right?
Mm.
And then you three can potentially look for dives or for plays onto their backline. But now, like, your Ana is so far back, your flankers are like up there, and then you're somewhere in the middle. So like you can't really help your Ana, and you can't really help your flankers. So you need to identify, like, what are the three of us doing? Like, do we want to have a defensive mindset, or do we want to go forward? Like, if they have a Zen here, of course you can look for dives forward, but then secure this position for the Ana then, because she can probably survive there easier, you know? Like, she can still push out on point and get help from the Mercy. She maybe has a mega to fall back to. She can't get pushed from this side if you guys clear this for her, right? Like, if you're Tracer and you potentially push here.
Yep.
But that's how you should, like, think from a Wrecking Ball perspective, how to play.
Okay.
But here you guys pick off the pharmacy, so it's fine. But yeah, you're just kind of playing in the middle and waiting. But it's very important that with these 3 DPS compositions, you initiate the conversation with your flankers, and you guys are on the same page of how you want to play it.
Okay.
It's not much more here. Let's go to the next map. We have 15 minutes. Because here we see like another... We see another composition that's a little different.
Okay. We should walk back. Walk back now.
Yeah, go back.
Okay, so you're playing against... it's a 3? 3? Yeah, 3 DPS.
Yeah.
I would just randomly fly up.
No hook.
Spaces, yeah, bubble.
Yeah.
You see? Rhine, after what we discussed, he's like, Spacer, do you have bubble? And then what he's going to do against these compositions, he's going to fly at the pharmacy with a bubble and get energy and buy time so that Farah can't shoot you guys.
Okay.
Because you don't need a bubble. Like, you don't need a bubble against this. You're pretty much a shield bot. But when you're listening to him, going, okay, I'm gonna fly, what's your bubble? I'm gonna fly at the Farah. What do you need to do?
I need to go forward and look for a stationary target.
Yeah, exactly. Because if he's drawing aggro from the Farah and the Mercy, and potentially someone else, maybe he flies up, maybe the Sombra helps on Rhine as well, that means you guys, especially you three, potentially the Zen too, but the Zen's probably just gonna hide in here or something. You three have a lot of mobility, and you still have some kill potential. Because if these guys are all focused on Rhine, that's an opening where if one of these guys mispositions, you can potentially catch them, right?
I'm touching.
And then if you guys pressure, then because now he gets hacked, right? So that means these three are on your diva, which means you missed a window where you could potentially have like a 5 versus 3, right? You can push these guys away, which means if Rhine dies, someone here dies because they have no mobility and you do, right? Yeah. So if they choose to commit that many resources to stopping Rhine, well, then they're gonna die. If they don't, then maybe you end up in a stalemate where the pharmacy falls back, heals up, you guys fall back, recharge your resources, you wait for your bubble, you wait for your fly, you heal Rhine up, and then you go for another rotation, and you see if someone makes a mistake then. But you guys have to be aggressive and do something while he is taking space as well. Otherwise, he's just gonna get focused and die. Here you do get the Hanzo, but it's not because you guys collectively called for an aggressive move. And now you recharge. Rhine hopefully still would have a mech here, and you guys can still accomplish them. Okay, you guys eventually die here. It's not too bad. You guys held Payload too much. So just from a theory perspective, like your comp against their comp is pretty good, right?
Yep.
But if you are on their team and you're pressing tab, what do you do now if you're the enemy team?
They're not gonna swap.
If they're smart, what should they do when they see this?
Go back and swap.
Mm-hmm.
Goats.
Exactly, because they're closer, right? So if I'm on their team, as soon as I wipe here,
Yeah, somewhere.
I leave the heroes that I want to stay on and send the rest to spawn and see what you guys do. If you guys stay on goats, these guys can stay. You know, so say potentially they could go goats with Ana and Sombra because they have this advantage and they know that you'd be resetting a lot of your ults, which is exactly what you're doing, right? So I would leave Ana and Sombra on the point if I'm them. See that you guys swap to this and then swap these 4 heroes, right? Because then they're in a situation where, well, fuck, all of you guys reset your ults. Like, what do you do? Like, they can just play slow with their Rhine goats, get up their EMP, and then start snowballing. Because if they can win the next fight with Sombra goats, then you guys have to go goats the next fight. And then for a third time, or like, you know, for a second time, you guys are resetting all your ults, right? So against a smart team, making such a huge change is going to be pretty hard. And this is just on Payload. You know, I think you can easily get away with something like this on Koth, and I think it's 100% the right call on Koth, but just be wary about this against smart teams, because smart teams could potentially do that, and you can see how that could potentially snowball, right?
Yeah.
Because in reality, all you could do is potentially just swap to Moira and then path into gas and then play slow, lose another fight there, retake again, and then eventually you guys are going to retake. And then if they go goats, then, well, you just have to swap off the Moira, right?
Yeah.
You transition more seamlessly. And for you, very important, when you play this composition, you're essentially playing as a death ball. Like, you cannot overextend it, because the only way you secure kills is if, like, Spacer is in position and your supports can follow up as well. So you have to be very understanding of where your team plays, because you can't really get heals from these guys unless they push in with you, right? Does that make sense?
Okay. 3, 2,
Yeah.
1, speeding.
So now, like, it's fine. All of you can go here, like Rhine marks a bit, and then all you guys regroup here, and then you guys look for something to dive.
I'm tunneling Farah.
And then the back of me, corner. 3, 2, 1.
So you do a countdown, you call the Ana, but this is so deep, you know, like these guys will be trailing the play, and without them, you can't secure a kill, you know, like you and Reyna can't reach this either, right? So you have 4 heroes who are going to be slow to follow up on this dive right here. And you and Spacer can never ever secure this kill. She's going to self-nade, and Mercy's going to pocket, and everyone's going to peel, right? But this is a good play. If you just wait a little bit, you make sure that the rest of your team is here. You guys stop the payload, and before you dive, the rest of your team is moving up here. So you jump when your teammates are like here, right?
Yeah.
So you have to understand distance much better, because this is way too deep. You know, like, your backline is nowhere to be seen, and they just peel you off.
Was Ana the right target though if I waited?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you can get on Hanzo, but it's going to be very hard for you guys to get on Hanzo, because your optimal pathing against the Pharah is to go here, right? It's time for you guys to go top, go for one bubble, or for, like, go for a marking, and then push into here. I mean, ideally, you don't go Sombra even. You just stay on the Zarya, like I said, because of the potential counter swap risk. You just bubble your diva, then all of you path here, and then you, as a death ball, you stop the payload here, and then it's very, very difficult for the Pharah to take angles, right? And then you also can be a little more aggressive, because you can get a bubble, you know? So if all of you secure those positions, you find the Ana, because if Hanzo is here, he can always climb up, and that's not, like, your break can't follow up with a bash fast enough if Hanzo reacts, right? So Ana, 100%, if she's on the ground, that's 100% the right target. You just have to make sure the rest of your team can close the distance.
Go.
Lower tunnel, hog.
And 3, 2.
I'm slept. Hard on cars.
Speeding.
Top right, Hanzo.
Okay, you're just TMP, so you don't get to play the game. Yeah, you just don't get to play the game.
Only hog.
Me and RK are going to focus on Farah. Can you be the main group? Not yet, I'll say when, RK.
Good call by Rene from our previous coaching session. Anytime you play against this shit, and anytime you have the Moira ult, these guys, and you can obviously help them as well. Just wait till they shift, till the Pharah uses shift, and then you can easily kill them with a Moira beam. You see, Rhine is calling for that, and that's why why I said like it's very important that everyone has a high understanding, you know, because now Rhine leads this play, but next time Arco is gonna know, oh, this play was successful. I understand how to play this now. Next time I have a Moira ult, I'm gonna initiate this call, you know, because if Rhine doesn't think about this, you guys probably don't go for this call, and then you don't have the right plan, which is why everyone has to have a high understanding of how to, you know, what are your win conditions, what are their win conditions.
Are you ready? Okay, can you do it?
In a second. No.
Yeah.
Go.
They sync up. Go.
Mercy top right. Mercy top right.
Boom. Fight should be over.
Nice. Try and get Pharah. Try and get the Pharah.
So now Rhine says trying to get the Pharah, so you listen to that, but you shouldn't listen to that. There's absolutely no need to get the Pharah. You've already killed the Mercy. Remember, no one can follow up on this, especially with Rhine losing mech, right? And like I said, with this comp, you're essentially playing like a death ball. If you jump here and force a duel here, no one can help you, no one can heal you, right? You just want to brawl. You want to brawl with your supports. So you should look for jumps that are sort of mid-range. Unless you can 100% go for the skill with Rhine. And obviously you can, you know. Because now because this shouldn't be losable. They lost these two guys. Pharah is useless on that side of the map. She's completely useless. She's no threat. You already brawling on point, so you just need to regroup and defend protect your advantage. But because you go for this play, like they find you and they kill you before you get your ult. Because this should have been where you guys stabilized. They have absolutely no business winning this fight. You guys have rally, you guys have so much. So
Go back. Go back.
yeah, very important to judge the distance of your jump. Winston through 3 floats, like Sombra floats. All those comes. Again, like when you have Winston ult, you have a lot more liberty. You can do whatever you want.
I'm going on Anna top left and stuff.
Okay. I'll go on Anna with you.
Good calling, good response by Rhine. You guys are synergizing well here.
There goes Rush.
But now when your Primal is over, again, you have to remember, no one can catch up to this, considering where the fight started, right? And again, your job is to play together with your team, because you don't have kill potential on her. Again, she has Valk, she can always come back and heal Diana. So as soon as your Primal ends and you don't get the kill, this is already a huge achievement, because you're putting her so far out of the fight and she's gonna have to pocket her. So you've relieved so much pressure. You've played the fight up until now really, really well. So now just jump out. Jump out and regroup with your team. This is going to take her forever to regroup with her team. And then you can just brawl. So there's no need for you to die here. Yeah, you see, like, none of these guys are ready to follow up.
I'm touching. We have red roof.
Now you guys take control of red roof. They have to swap.
Mercy hack.
I need healing in main. I'm coming card. I need healing.
I'm on the fist.
Doom.
Yeah. And when you guys have map control, it's just so hard for them to do anything.
We have EMP though.
And now they go 3-3, but it's too late. They reset all their ults, so they just lose to your EMP. But yeah, for you, it's just like measuring the jump distance and understanding you don't have to get kills. You just have to clear map control, and then your Sombra and your supports are going to do the rest. And you're basically useless without the help of your supports. Let's see, you don't really have any time left, right? So we gotta wrap this up.
Only like 1 minute, yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Did I have any notes for the attack? It's mostly the same stuff. Like overswinging, bubbles, all that stuff. I already covered it. There's only one more thing I think that's important that I touch on. Yeah, your corner play here was good.
We kill the guys on top.
Boom. Very good. This is the same situation. Do you remember a Rialto example? Right?
On corner.
Yeah. On your attack. You already cleared this. So this is another situation where you can just play power positions, right?
Yeah.
Counter.
But if you just drop and play in a straight line, then they're like, well, okay, like we're retaking map control. It's fine for us to play like that.
Okay.
I got you.
So now you guys are fighting in a straight line, and it's a fair fight.
You're fine.
Nice. I'm
As you guys are making a play here, you actually even have to deal with off angles. You know, like they're shooting you from this angle, Brigade positions from this angle. They're shooting from this. Like they actually have superior angles, even though you won the fight here, like up there, right? So a more optimal way to potentially play is because you do a great job of clearing this. But now, like your Zarya could potentially jump up on red roof. On let's see, can we see it from this angle?
Can we kill the guys on top?
Like your Zarya could play here or even above on the roof over there. And then you guys, if you drop and hold the shield there, they have to worry about that angle. And then there's nothing they can do, right? Reyna takes this, Spacer takes this, you play like that, and you just overwhelm them with angles. So instead of them having that kind of crossfire, you have it instead, right? So just something to think about. Like anytime you clear high ground control, like clear the high ground, make sure you guys take power positions. Don't rush it. Make sure you just get good positions and you choke them out with your with like superior positions.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't get like to cover the entirety of this map, but again, like most of it was the same stuff we already covered. We did cover the Sombra floats and the mindset for the Winston, so I think we covered most of it. Are there any questions before you have to run?
When do I know when to play for power position and when to like just let it, if that makes sense?
So it's more your team than the rest. Like if your Zarya is taking that position ahead of time, then you just winning the fight here is fine. You know, it's about on the Rialto example again. You won the corner, you won the high ground. In that situation, is just about do we flip the map, or even like if you look at the stream, I'm gonna pull that up again because I gave you a very specific rotation. But another situation, like if we think about the root example and this example, you guys clear them here, they drop, you go back and drop in front of the payload, and then maybe your Zarya can like keep this position or something, right?
Yeah.
Because then if your Zarya keeps this position, then they have to push away, they have to fall back further, their diva has to commit, and then you just automatically gain map control. So you yourself, like you're not really playing power positions, you're just making sure that you win the fight for the important ground, which you did both on route second and here. And then it's up to the rest of your team to use the ground that you won, using this. But the only thing you choose is, are we flipping map or are we not? Like in this situation, there's still room to flip the map. In the route situation, there isn't. There's just about, the rest from our team can get the high ground. And it doesn't even have to be like your Zarya could even like just stay here, just like you guys clearing this, dropping in front of the payload and just having one off angle with Zarya above them. Like that's just one advantage. But the way you guys end up playing with everyone behind the shield, you don't really get any advantage. Like now all of you are behind the shield. They don't have to worry about this. They can even take that room for free, right? So yeah, it's just something like when you guys have map control, understand which position are we fighting for, and then which positions do we need to take if we win the fight for this important part of the map.
Okay, is it always a good idea to flip the map when you're on attack like that? Or is it only in some?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's a pretty good idea, just because, again, like I said, if the defense kites, if you because say you use rally, they don't have a rally, they have to kite, right? Well, they can't really kite, because if they kite, you push the payload away from them, and then they have to like the space that they have to make back up. It's just so gigantic, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the time you don't want to flip the map as a defense. Obviously, there are situations where you kind of have to. Say, like I think they did. So when you guys path this way on your next fight, this is sort of okay for them to flip the map, because they can still fight for this corner pretty well. And they can't really fight for this corner up here, because you can walk up to the high ground. So they can fight for this. They can try and control here, and they can try and control red roof. Like those are the advantages for the defense. So this is one of the situations where it's fine for the defense to flip as long as they control those power positions. But in general, like the defense doesn't want to flip. But from your point of view, this is like this is the only way you can, and it's hard for you to take space as well. You know, even if you rally, it's hard to push here. If they're playing above you there and there, if you haven't cleared that, then you can't really push in, right? Because they have the off angles on you.
Yeah.
But if they don't have these, and you flip the map, then they're in real trouble. So it's just something to try and think about. You know, like we on these payload mats especially, could we have flipped the map here? Should we? You know. And think about it from the defensive perspective, from the attacker's perspective, because it can be super punishing if you do it as a defender.
Yeah,
and it can potentially rob you of a retake as well. So,
okay.
Yep. Anything else? Or are we happy?
Happy for now.
Okay. I can. I'll make a little bit of a summary for you, just like the biggest points, and then. Like the biggest points that I reiterated, and then I'll send it to you so you can kind of look through it before your scrims and, you know, keep reminding yourself.
Nice. Okay.
All right. Right. I hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. I hope you found it educational. If you also want to be part of the Mineral Coaches series, then you can join the Discord, which you can find in the description box down below, post in the coaching channel, and we can potentially set something up. Beyond that, if you want to make me feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside, press all the buttons, like, subscribe, watch my other videos, all that good stuff. And yeah, thanks for supporting me, and see you next time.